So you've decided to take LSD, and you might be looking for it or might already be in possession of it. But before you take it, please listen to me. There are 3 things that you should absolutely be aware of if you want to have a safe and pleasant trip. And of course, these 3 things include set and setting, the classical mantra of psychedelics basically. But if you've never heard of these 2 terms, don't worry, I will talk about them later on in this video. Because I want to begin with substance and dosage to begin with as number 1. These are the 2 most important aspects for me. Why? Because let's face it, you've probably gotten your substance, your stuff from either a local vendor or a friend of a local vendor or the deep web. Some kind of drug market on the deep web, and you've probably never met that vendor, that person who sold you the stuff, and that person is probably neither the person who first synthesized the substance or a person who has come in contact with the person who synthesized the stuff. So you don't have a 100% certainty that what you got there is actually LSD, lysergic acid diethylamide. Now, if you're lucky, it's a derivative of lysergic acid, something that is very similar to LSD if taken in the same dosage as if it was LSD, and which has the same toxicity as LSD, which means it's not very toxic in low doses. But if you're unlucky and this shit has happened, you get something like a research chemical like NBome, which is a psychedelic, sure, but if taken in overdose or in excess, it can be dangerous. It can in fact kill you. And this has happened before. I will link a case of a teenager who unfortunately died of the consumption of NBome. In the description, you can read about it yourself. I don't want to mention this in this video and kill the good vibes. No. So, substance. How can you be sure that what you got there is LSD? Now, you're probably not an organic chemist, so you cannot do any complex reagents, reactions to make sure that the substance you've got is in fact LSD. But what you can do is get a Marquise and or an Ehrlich reagent test online. You can get them practically everywhere, even on the clear web. And I will link some tests in the descriptions. They tell you basic stuff. For example, that what you got there is an alkaloid, and I think there is a test, for example, that tells you that you've got a derivative of lysergic acid. This can give you an enormous amount of safety. If money is not a problem, and it should never be if it's about your safety, I urge you, please, get one of those tests. And if you can't get a reagent test like that, there are a couple wishy-washy methods that might or might not work. For example, LSD is also active if ingested orally, meaning that if you directly swallow the blotter, it will still work. It will take a lot longer to work than if taken sublingual, for example, if you put it under your tongue, but it will work after like 5 hours maybe. NBome, for example, will not work that way. If you ingest NBome orally, it will not work. Hopefully it won't work. What you can also do is, well, put it on your tongue and see if it tastes strong, if it tastes funny, or if it tastes at all, because perfect LSD 25, which is not contaminated with anything, should not taste at all. If it tastes very sour, very bitter, and it attaches itself to your tongue, you might get NBome or some other kind of research chemical there, so that might be an indicator. So if you're really skeptical about the substance, you've already got a very sketchy source, and your substance turns out to stick to your tongue and sting and be very bitter, then you should maybe spit it out, you know. Safety first, kids. So let's get that out of the way. Number 1 was dosage and substance. Number 2 and 3 I put them together, of course, are set and setting. The mantra of psychedelics propagated by Dr. Timothy Leary since at least the 60s and probably since the 50s or even before. Now, what does that mean in short? Set is short for mindset. It means, what is your reason for taking LSD? What are your intentions? What are you trying to get out of it? Or do you have any intentions? You see, you can get some very different experiences from the same substance if you, for example, take it because you think you can use it for self-therapy, to get over something bad that has happened to you in your past. People do that. And you will do that and you get a very, very different effect compared to someone who, for example, got LSD mixed into his drink without his knowledge, who takes it and has probably a bad trip. So mindset. And also, if you've got a very depressed, very negative mindset, you know, you might have a bad trip. Whereas if you're, for example, having a very good mood, you're happy, you have people around you even who are really just spreading good vibes everywhere, you might have a very good trip. LSD is sort of like every other drug that messes with your serotonin in that it amplifies the mood that is already present inside of you. Alcohol does that too, but LSD is even more extreme, you know. I don't have to explain you that part. But what's also important is the setting. Where are you when you take the LSD? Who is around you, or is anyone around you? Now there is this concept of a trip sitter, of a person who is sober, who has optimally had some sort of experience with psychedelics and especially LSD, who knows what a trip can be like, what dangers there are during the trip, who knows how to calm you down, and who most importantly is close to you, someone you trust. Having someone like this on your first trip or your first 2-3 trips can almost guarantee you that you have a somewhat safe trip, a somewhat stable trip, and a somewhat pleasant trip. I personally have had the honor to have a trip sitter, and I did not, actually I've never had a bad trip, but especially my first trips were very pleasant because of that. But also the environment you are around, you know, has an effect on how you perceive the world during a trip. Are you at home? Are you at a friend's place? Or are you at a public place with lots of unknown people around? You know, that makes a difference. That makes a difference. I would never want to trip in a football stadium with hooligans, you know, just fighting and people screaming and shouting and some 20 something people running around on the green field and kicking a football. I would not want to do that. I don't know if I'd have a bad trip, but I certainly wouldn't have a very pleasant trip. So these are the 3 things that you should absolutely pay close attention to in order to have a safe and pleasant trip. I'm not going to talk about the potential dangers of LSD and not, because there is a video for that coming sometime in the future. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If you're a chemist or you have access to chemicals, so to pharmaceuticals, or you have a doctor who doesn't mind giving you prescription medicine, there is this class of drugs called benzodiazepines, benzos for short, that can have an anti-anxietal effect, and it can in fact kill your trip, which also means it can kill your bad trip. Now this is not essential. I've never actually had, I was never actually in possession of benzodiazepines, but if you can get some, sure, why not? Just make sure that you don't overdo it and that you don't absolutely rely on this stuff. Because again, you should be able to cope with things that come during a trip naturally. But this is really it. I want this video to be short and digestible. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Comment what you liked or what you don't like. I need any kind of feedback, if negative or positive, I don't mind. And if you want to see videos like this in the future, please subscribe to my channel. I will do lots of videos about psychedelics, not just psychedelics, but psychoactive substances in general, consciousness, your brain, stuff that keeps me awake at night, basically. And if you want to go one step further and support this very small channel, I mean, at this point of time, I have like 6 or 7 videos out. You can go to my Patreon page. I've linked it. I will be eternally grateful for you. I mean, I love you already, bro or broette, but I love you even more, platonically, of course. But really, that's it for now. Have a great day or have a great night. Bye.